Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Monday, the 9th of March. With Robert Murray McShane, we're working our way through the book of Job. Today we read chapter 38. At this point, Job's friends have tried to blame him and said he's clearly an evil man, and he's refused to accept it. Elihu, another person, has then accused the friends of saying, you haven't been able to refute Job. And he then goes on and challenges Job with the glory of God and how little Job knows. Chapter 38 begins, "Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said, 'Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you will answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set, or who laid its cornerstone, while the morning stars sang together and the angels shouted for joy?'" And as I read that, I thought, here's God saying to Job, you think you know, but how much do you actually know? You look at the world, do you even know how the world works? Do you fully understand where it comes from, how to put together? And he's highlighting how little Job actually knows. And the other thing, as I read this, and it continues looking at the creation, and I thought that's what science is after today, trying to understand what God is doing. And going back in history, you have scientists, I think it was Kepler, who was saying science and what he was doing was basically trying to think God's thoughts after him. And he recognized that God had done it. God had put it all in place. God had laid the foundations, put the cornerstones, the dimensions, everything. And so as Kepler was trying to discover it, he was trying to get to the mind behind it, that the universe shows what God was thinking. And we're trying to find it. And there are many scientists today that recognize there's an order in the universe. There's a structure. There must be some thought behind it. And we're trying to find that. And so that's the one encouragement, to think of science as continuing what God challenged Job with. And so science is a Christian undertaking, whether scientists want to acknowledge it or not. And for Christians, it's a worthy pursuit to discover more about God's universe. And the second thing that I thought, as I was sort of reflecting on it, was what God is saying to Job is, you don't really know much. And I thought, if Job didn't know much, I know even less. And so as I go through my life and I'm trying to make sense of what's going on, trying to understand, God, what are you doing? Why is this like this? Why don't you do that? How do I live here? I need to recognize the limitations of my perspective. And I'm so limited in my understanding, not just of the universe, but of the God behind the universe. And we all live with that human limitation. And therefore we should not be surprised when we don't understand what God's doing, when some of what's going on doesn't make sense. And we end up having to cast ourselves back on Scripture and saying, God, you've spoken and you've said that you're loving. That I hold on to. When I look at my life or the world or people around me and I don't see that love, I need to recognize I don't see things properly. But I can hang on to your word as something that is sure and certain. So be encouraged to rejoice in this world that God has created, and also take comfort in recognizing how little we understand and how much greater God is than we are. Be blessed.